Welcome, y'all, to this season closer. Last season, we had such a good response to my question and answer episode. We're doing it again. And so people have sent in questions. I'm about to answer them all. I talk about everything from my favorite beverage to my worst mistakes in ministry. So buckle up. It's a fun ride, and I hope you enjoy it. And I just want you to know that I'm so grateful that you listen. I'm so grateful that you're tuning in. And I'm just really grateful that I get to do this. So I hope you enjoy this Backstage episode all about me. I accidentally just deleted something and then I started something and oh geez, I hope I did this right. Okay. Chris, don't kill me. Every time I text Chris, it starts with don't kill me. Or don't be mad. Okay. Anyways, hi everyone. Welcome to the last episode of this season. Hey, thanks for sticking with me this long. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited to be doing another question and answer session. Last season, I ended with question and answer, and I got such good feedback. And my numbers for that, the number of times people shared that and the number of listeners was so high, we thought we should do another question and answer to end out every season moving forward. So if you're not familiar, people have been sending in questions that I'm going to literally make this episode all about me. But you guys have some really fun questions. This is going to be really fun. I love it. Thanks for hanging with me, you guys. I've barely prepped. I've had a really wild, since Easter, it has been wild. And so when I got all these questions, I browsed them last night, but I'm coming in like super hot right now. Like I have no canned answers. And so on my way here, I was like, should I push the recording till later so I can like look at the questions? And I was like, you know what? My Backstage listeners are not here for canned answers. If you're still with me, you are not looking for a canned answer. You are looking for the real Jamie. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to go for it. So here we are. Well, here we find ourselves. So welcome and let's jump in. I'm so excited. Okay, this was really cool. The most asked question was never asked last season, which is super fun. And it's about my history in missions, which is this is so fun. And so a lot of people wanted to know about my time in missions. And then they wanted to know some stories from my time in missions. So if you don't know, before I married Dustin and became local church pastor, with him, I was in missions for a few years. I don't even know how long. I went into mission. I think I went into YWAM was the organization I was with. Shout out YWAM, all my YWAM people. I don't know how long, but years and years. And I went in as a 22-year-old and God just did so much in me during that time. And I did a DTS with them, which is their discipleship training school, just the foundations of just like, Christianity really and discipleship. And then I staffed with YWAM in Kona and I took short-term teams back and forth from Asia, Southeast Asia primarily. And then I lived in Thailand for a while after the tsunami happened on Christmas Eve. Some of y'all might remember that on Christmas Eve. I think it was in 2004. And so I lived in Thailand for a while, facilitating teams coming to help. So we were in the relief camps and a lot of people were displaced, obviously, after that horrific event, that tsunami. And so I would be in the relief camps and I would help organize short-term teams that were coming in to help. And so I love missions. I love YWAM and I love Southeast Asia. And I haven't been since I was pregnant with Jen. I was just talking to Dustin about this the other night and I was like, I think it's almost time to take them to Thailand. Our good friends lead University of the Nations with YWAM in Battambang. And shout out Garth and Caroline. They've also been on the podcast. You can go back and listen to their episode. And we have friends in Thailand. And so I was just telling Dustin, I was like, I think it's time for the boys to experience Thailand and Cambodia. So hopefully that's going to be coming up here soon for them. But oh my gosh, Thailand will always have a piece of my heart. I went all around, really all those countries, Vietnam, spent a lot of time in India. Oh my gosh, I love India. Love India. Oh, best people. Cambodia, obviously, back and forth a lot. Burma, Myanmar, I got to go in there. That was a really, really cool experience. I love Burma. Or you guys are going to get tired of me saying how many things I love. I'm sure I'll get angsty at some point in the podcast, so just hang on. went to Laos, went to Indonesia, Japan. Like that was such a cool time in my life. And I'm so grateful for it. I feel like it was like the honeymoon season for me. It's where God just really built me up and exploded my heart for the world. And I realized like, oh my gosh, everyone isn't just like, middle class, white girl, 21st century American. There's a whole world out there and it's beautiful. And I just fell in love with the nations and God's love for the nations. And so that was just a really special time for me. I met Dustin and then joined him in local church ministry. And I see, looking back, hindsight's always 2020. It was really hard for me to leave missions, but I see now God's plan in all of it. And I feel like my time in missions, like I said, was like just very honeymoon. It was all just glorious. And people laugh because it's like, I had wild things happen. I mean, I had lice 24/7. Like I stopped doing lice treatments because it didn't work, because I would just get them the next day. If you know lice, everyone, they start small as eggs in the back and they work their way to the front. So it's very rare in America that you would ever even have lice move up your head. But when I was in Thailand, I would go to these relief camps and I was always with the kids. And I tell this story a lot when I'm teaching, but I remember there being a time where I would try and do the lice treatments to get rid of them, but then I'd just go back to the camp the next day and get it. And so finally I just stopped trying, and I would go to bed at night. I lived by myself in a little cement hut in Khao Lak, Thailand. And I drove a pink Honda scooter. And I remember I would lay in bed. I would lay in my bed with my little Thai sheets. And if you've been to Thailand, you know the little Thai pillows. And I would grab my brush and I would scratch my head violently to get rid of the itching, and then try and fall asleep before it started itching again. Oh, the best memories. Oh, I just like, I could cry. I love that time so much. I would, at the same time that I was like, had my lice at the worst. Oh, and I remember looking in the mirror one day and seeing I remember looking in the mirror in my little room one day before I left, and a full-grown lice. I don't know if you call them lice when they're full-grown, if they're I don't know, but they literally cruised through my bangs. My bangs. Y'all, a full-grown lice. And I was like, okay, this has gotten crazy. At the same exact time, I got a staph infection in my eye. And so my eye was so swollen and red. I couldn't even like open my eye. It was so bad. The sweet doctors that were coming to like help in these camps, they were treating me. And I looked like a monster. Lice everywhere, eye infection. The kids were scared of me. And I remember though this is what I'll say about my time in missions, is that I remember walking down the little street in Khao Lak, and my eye hurt and I had to go home and put ointment on it and my head itched. And I remember thinking like, I've never been happier. And I think that's the power of letting your world get broken open sometimes. And I'm all for, like, I went to college. My kids will go to college. Like, I'm married. I have a mortgage. I'm not anti-American dream, but I am pro letting your world break open a bit and realizing and understanding like that there is a huge world out there that God loves. And when I've never been happier than when I feel like I was loving the people he loves and serving his world. And I do that now in a different aspect. But they've both just been so amazing. But I also see how he brought me to Dustin and to the local church, because I feel like I learned really formative things during my time in missions. And I learned to be tough. I mean, I could fall asleep on a bus station floor, y'all. I'm serious. Like now we were just somewhere and we were in a bed and I was like, oh, my back hurts. And I literally go to Dustin. I go, oh my gosh. I just complained about my back hurting from a bed in an Airbnb. It's time to go. It's time to go to Thailand. We're out of here. We're going back. I've gotten so soft. There's nothing wrong with being soft either. There's a lot of other difficult things that happen. And any time you follow God, there's gonna be hard things and there are gonna be amazing things about it. But I feel like now being at the local church, someone asked this question, the transition from missions to church. And I feel like I never really shared my life with people in missions because it was very transient. It's like the travel, it's just, you're constantly traveling, you're constantly going. People are in and out. The turnover's high. And so it's really fun. But there's this verse that Paul says somewhere. And he says, I don't just want to share my thoughts, or maybe he said my teachings with you, but I want to share my life as well. And I feel like that's what the local church has taught me to do. I've been through fertility struggles with women. We have had people in our church lose parents. I've walked with people through miscarriages. I have shared my heartbreak at times with people. I have seen people get married and it not go well. I have seen people get married and it go beautifully. I have had people but this is life with people, right? Side note, marriage advice. Someone was asking, one of our students was asking me the other day something about marriage. Actually, this is one of the questions, so I'll add this in now. Something about marriage. Well, I can't find it right now. Where is it? Where is it, the question? Oh, advice for getting married. This is what I would say. This ties into why I love local church ministry, is that you marry somebody, not that you have chemistry with necessarily, although that's amazing. There's nothing better than a nice oxytocin dump. All about it. It's beautiful. God created these things in us. Like, it's beautiful. But marry the person who you want standing next to you when you bury a parent, because that's what life looks like with someone. And I feel like the local church, being a part of a local church and being a leader in a local church, has given me that joy. The joy of living life. And life is messy. And life can be ugly, and then life can be so good. And I get to live that with like all of these people in our life every day. We've been here for 13 years. My husband always gives me a bad time because I round up everything. And so hopefully I got that one right, Dee, if you're listening. We have been with some of these people for 13 years. We just dedicated a baby. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start crying. We just dedicated a baby on last Sunday. His name is Cameron. His mom was here, Olivia, shout out Olivia Dedman. She was here the day we arrived in Texas. She just dedicated her baby. Like, we gotta pray. That's life. That is life with people. And so I love the honeymoon of in and out and transient and travel. But I mean, walking through life with people, I was there for Olivia's breakups. I was there when she fell in love with her husband. I've been there through her high school days. I've been there when she was deciding her career. That's life. Oh my gosh. Local church, y'all. Local church. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love missions too. Okay, next question. Let's see here. Okay, this is fun. This is the second one I got, other than missions. This is the second most popular question that came in a lot. And that's how to balance mom, ministry, work, and self. And oh man, the greatest question. Moms are the best, aren't we? Oh my, since this podcast is all about me, it's also going to be all about the moms out there that like do so much. I was actually thinking the other day, I was going to post something, but then I was like, oh, people are going to think I'm like begging on Dustin. And Dustin is so grateful. He's such a grateful husband. Like, he's always appreciative. He never assumes things that I should do or am going to do. So I didn't want to post it because I thought people would assume I was like negging on him. But I was going to say like, hey, if you're somebody who has clothes just show up in your dresser clean, you need to find the person and thank them. Buy them something, do something for them. If you just have food in your fridge, if you just always have water in your fridge, then somebody is doing that work. And it's not always moms. That's sexist of me. Like, sometimes we have some awesome stay-at-home dads, like in their kids are in our academy. They volunteer. Like, so shout out to people who just do any of those works. But so I guess I shouldn't just say mom ministry, work, self-balance. It's the person at home. That's a better way to say it. I will tell you what, I have gone too hard at times and just started to hate everything and everybody. And I've gone too soft at times and just only cared about myself. And so I feel like genuinely, I have found a really beautiful mix of those two things. And I think when I went hard, I was trying to like please people or please Dustin. And when I went too soft, I only just cared about myself. And we can't leave on either side of that spectrum, right? And so I feel like there are two things that changed my life when it comes to balance. Well, balance is the wrong word too, I guess, because we're never balanced. I remember my mom saying one time, somebody asked her which kid was her favorite, I think was the word. She could correct me, but favorite, or which kid gets the most of her attention. And she said, whichever one needs me the most, right? And so I think that's true with anything, with work, ministry, kids, life, and spouses. Like who's hemorrhaging? If my son I remember when my son was in kindergarten, and I could tell something was off with him. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew he's really sweet. He's a really, really sweet kid. And he just wasn't responding to me like he normally does in kindy. And we had been going really, really hard at church and ministry, and had been gone a lot, and had just, because things were hemorrhaging. So if somebody needs you in ministry, I'm there, right? But then I don't just stay there for the next 40 years. I turn around and go, okay, how are my kids? Are they hemorrhaging? How's my husband? Is he hemorrhaging? How am I? Am I hemorrhaging? And so I took my son out of school for the day, and I took him to North Park. He loves shopping, copy paste of his father. He loves to shop. I hate shopping, but Jude and Dustin love their shopping trips. And so I took him to North Park, and I told him he could buy a present for baby, a present for his brother, and buy himself something. And he bought a gold chain. He bought a gold chain, and then he bought something for Genesis. And then we went to a fancy lunch. The restaurant's not there anymore, but it used to be that restaurant, Henry's, I think it was called, or something, at the entrance of North Park in Dallas. And we went to a fancy lunch, and he ate his first cheeseburger. And he was, after that, everything just moved forward beautifully with him and our relationship. And so I think like noticing what needs me the most. But if my kids always need me the most, I never care about Dustin, I never look to his needs, and I never ask him how his day was, then I'm not doing my job. If I'm always obsessing about everything going on at the church, and I don't realize that my kids just really want to read me the book they wrote at school, so it's a constant maneuvering. And every parent that's listening knows how this goes. There are two things that really, really help me with maneuvering all of the different hats, right? And one, I am the least legalistic person I know. Like, I am not black and white. I'm not legalistic. I am like 50 Shades of Grey over here, okay? Like, like I am not a legalistic person. This is the one thing that I am crazy about, and that's I take a Sabbath. And years ago, as a staff, we read Robert Morris from Gateway, his book on the Sabbath. I forget what it's called, but he challenged, and he said somebody got really upset at him one day because he wouldn't take a meeting with them. And he asked that person, he goes, how would you feel if I was cheating on my wife? How would you feel if I had just murdered someone? How would you feel if I had just stolen, right, from Kroger, whatever? Obviously, the guy's like, yeah, that would be horrible. And he's like, keeping a Sabbath is in the exact same list as all of those commandments. Those 10 commandments, one of them is keeping a Sabbath. And so I'll go as hard as I can go some weeks, and then I'll ease up some weeks, but I never miss a Sabbath. My Sabbath is on Friday. I don't do anything on Fridays except for what genuinely feeds me. So sometimes I'll edit the podcasts. Sometimes like I'll have lunch with like a really close friend. Sometimes I'll nap. I'll take a nap. I'll study. I'll do my study times on Fridays. I did my taxes. The last 2 Sabbaths, I did my taxes, and I had a TV show on my iPad while I did my taxes. I texted Dustin. I was like, I'm having the best Sabbath doing our taxes, and just the recharge time. And so I never missed the Sabbath, and I never schedule something on the Sabbath, and unless there is a dire emergency. And so I think keeping the Sabbath has really transformed my health. Saturday, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to party as a family. I'm ready to go to Dave & Buster's. I'm ready to go to the zoo. I'm ready to go to the, wherever they want to go. Jen's into bowling right now. He loves bowling. He always wants to bowl. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be there for my family because I took Friday, and it's not all day. Dustin doesn't come home and I'm like, don't talk to me. It's my Sabbath. It's until the boys get back from school. And it's transformed my life. And the other thing with the balance maneuvering act is therapy. You guys have heard me talk about that before. I have a really amazing counselor, and he's really helped me identify areas that I try and overcompensate in that don't feed me, or that I'm just not good at, that I try and be good at, right? And so you got to be careful about your counselor. Sidebar: there are a lot of counselors out there that hate God and hate His church and love to call us cult leaders. But there are some killer ones out there. And so if you need a recommendation, our therapist has a whole team that works under him, and it's transformed. It's just transformed how I approach life. So I feel like a very as well balanced as somebody can be living in the world we live in and doing all the things that we all do. Okay, next one. Oh, I love this one. If I had a daughter, what are the top nuggets of wisdom I would want to impart to them? If I had a daughter. Oh, Dustin wants a daughter so bad. He wants to be a girl dad so bad. I wanted to be a boy dad, so Jesus loves me. Let's see. Or a boy dad. I told y'all I'm tired. I wanted to be a boy mom. Let's see. If I had a daughter, boy, I think my mom killed it with mothering daughters. She had 5. And these are the 2 things I took away from how she parented girls. And I think every single one of us would say that we all embody this philosophy that she didn't aggressively push on us, but it came kind of through in every single thing that we did, talked about, read, watched, feedback, all of it. It all boiled down to this: how we look and who we date don't make us valuable. And I think like there is this thing perpetuated in culture that, ooh, who do you like? Who's your crush? Ooh, so many women want their daughters to get boyfriends. Oh, like what? That's going to come so fast naturally. They're going to be sexualized so fast naturally and biologically. Like, let's not be picking out our kids' spouses when they're kindies, okay? Let's let them be children. Because especially for girls, culture tells us that how we look and who we love is what makes us us. And those are complete lies. And my mom never one day in my life, whether I'm 100 pounds or 500 pounds, whether I have the cutest boy or the most popular boy. So who I date, who I love, and how I looked was never an issue in our family talks and in how we were raised as girls. And I love that because I can walk honestly really confidently into a room without Dustin, and I can walk really confidently into a room postpartum and never think that I don't have something to offer that room because I have a brain. I have a personality. And I think my mom always harped on that, like she wasn't aggressive. Like I said, it wasn't aggressive, but it was like, no, like we have personalities. We love people. We have good senses of humor. We're smart. We can read. Like, look at us reading. Like, and so I think those are the things I would want to, and I do that with my boys as well, but especially with if I were to have a girl, just make her life and her future about who she is at her core, not how she looks and not who she decides to love. So love that question. My beverage of choice, because I used to drink Coke all the time. Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm such a beverage girl. What do I have right now? Right now I'm into Topo Chicos and I squeeze limes into them. So I get that little limey, but it has to be like squeezed limes. So now I'm buying, I didn't know limes were so expensive, y'all. I'm just into this thing. And so I just bought a bag of limes and I'm like, a bag of limes is like $7? Like what is happening right now? So Topo Chico in my tumbler, you will never not see me with a tumbler. If you ever see me and I do not have a tumbler, I am about to go under. So it's going to get ugly. Please help me. Send help. Call 911 because my girl Hannah, she's my assistant, but she's really everything else in my entire world as well. And I hate calling our assistants because they really are our best friends at the same time. But my girl Hannah, she the other day she sent me a meme and it was like, when your tumbler is your security animal. Because I was telling her, I was like, if I have a tumbler in my hand with a beverage in it, like I can run for president if I got a tumbler in my hand. So yes, Topo Chico fresh squeezed lime right now is my beverage of choice. Let's see. I told you guys I didn't prep on these. How many nights a week do I cook? Oh man, I've dropped the ball on 2 things this year: cooking and reading. And another one of my questions was, what was your favorite book of last year? I love cooking and I love reading, but this year has just gotten away from me. And so I've not read as much as I like, and I have not cooked as much as I like. But I would say I probably cook 2 nights a week at home. But if we're on vacation and if we're in an Airbnb, I cook every night. So vacation for me is planning meals and cooking them. So, but here, and Dustin has a lot of nighttime things. He has board of directors meetings. He has Dream Center meetings. He has lots of nighttime meetings. So if he's not there, I don't usually cook. I cook for the boys, but that's throwing a waffle in the toaster. What is the favorite class that I teach? I teach a lot of classes to our college students, and oh man, I love our college students so much. I have the best time with them. My favorite class that I teach, boy, I've taught so many classes. My favorite would always be, well, my OG class would be Character and Nature of God. This doesn't count Bible classes, everyone. These are just other ones. Bible class would always be my favorite. But the OG favorite class would be, I have a teaching on the nature and the character of God, and how I think that is it's been the most pivotal concept for me to grasp in Christianity. And the whole premise of it is that the most important thing about us is what we think about God. A.W. Tozer said that. And so the whole class is built around, how do we think about God? And if we think about God as Hitler in the sky, then we're off. But if we think about God as Santa Claus in the sky, we're also off. And how do we bring his nature and his character, his nature, which is big, and his character, which is good? How do we bring them together in our theology and approach him in that way? So I think that's probably my favorite OG class. My favorite class this year I've taught. I had so much. It was a brand new class. I never taught it before. So it was super fresh, but I taught on the canon and the canonization of scripture. It sounds so boring, right? Oh my gosh, it was so fun. We had the best time. I think I taught it for 4 weeks. How did we get the Bible? How did we get the canon? Why are some books not in there? Why are there some variations in different texts? Why is a part of John not included in an original manuscript? Did people vote on the books of the Bible? Because can we really trust them, like a group of humans that voted on these? What about the Gospel of St. Thomas? What about the Gnostics? Oh my gosh. And so we get into all of it. It was so fun. It was so fun, and it brought so much faith to me. I think it brought a lot of faith to the students as well. Just that, like, the Bible we have, it is solid. Like, it is a solid book. But we dig into like all of the little like ambiguities and apparent discrepancies as well, and a lot of things that like Bible haters or God haters love to throw out. And so at the end of it all, we realize like why we have these specific books. And oh my gosh, we got into the eyewitness accounts and how it's just so obvious, like especially in the Gospels, that these are like real humans recounting real events, and why we can know that. Oh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. So that was definitely my favorite class from this year that I did. Let's see. Somebody asked about talking to marriage and sex. Love this question. I actually have a podcast. I have a Christian sex therapist coming on next season. So I'm going to save a little bit of that. And I also hopefully you all listened to last episode with Ashley Jameson. She talks a lot about, we don't talk so much marriage and sex, more like sexual betrayal or trauma betrayal. Hopefully you've heard Ashley's episode before this one. And then I'm going to have someone on next season who's really going to unpack like sex and marriage and how to keep it healthy, how to keep it alive. If you hate it, how to kind of try and break through some of those mental walls. If you love it too much, there are groups for that. Yeah, I'm excited about that, but I can't get into that one too much. But I will say I'm passionate about it, and I'm committed to bringing some really like honest and transparent conversations around that topic to this podcast. Okay, if I were going to get a tattoo, what would it be? Well, I know it'd be from Kiana. I don't remember her Instagram name right now. I think it's Kiana Hope Tattoo, but you can find her. I follow her, so you can find her. She's amazing. I do not have any tattoos. This is so hilarious. My siblings, all six of us, none of us have tattoos. I'm like, we are the only family, and we weren't even taught like to not get tattoos. Like my parents wouldn't have even cared, and we never got tattoos. I did get a belly button ring at one point. That was hysterical. Hashtag early 20s. And then I got, and I had a nose ring for a long time, which I loved, but then I had to take it out when I went to Cambodia. What would I get? Okay, I think I would get a hand tattoo. Oh boy, no, maybe not. I love Haley Bieber's hand tattoos and Shannon's. She's my producer. Her hand tattoos are so cool. Oh, but maybe I would get something on my mic hand. A while ago, I wanted to get, or I thought about getting Conquered. I don't love that one anymore. Boy, this one really stumped me. I could talk about the canonization of scripture for like 20 minutes, but I can't decide on a tattoo. Boy, what would I get? And I think I would do a word, but I don't know what word. Okay, tips for recovering from and avoiding burnout. Great question. I would go back to the exact same answer for balancing work, life, ministry, mom, spouse. And I would say Sabbath, a Sabbath, like a whole day that recharges you, and that God gets a chance to recharge you as well. I swear, I was just talking to one of our staff girls last week, and she was like, God was totally speaking to me through Gilmore Girls. And I was like, of course he was. I don't like this whole division, like, oh, some things are sacred and some things are secular. God spoke to me so much through Dawson's Creek when I was in high school. Like, I think God loves to invade those spaces. So, so I think like God can oftentimes like help us recover and help find us rest too in ways that He made us. Like, I don't think God hates it when I watch, Frasier. I'm into Frasier, that old show. I don't think he hates it. I think he thinks I'm adorable and that I like to laugh. And I'm not. I have so much history with God at this point in my life that I just think that like anything that recharges me, like, is making God happy too. And he uses like if I want to go take myself out for a crab lunch. I love crab. I want to take myself to do crab lunch and watch something funny. I think he just thinks it's adorable and fun. And almost always, God meets me in those really sweet moments where I just stop and I take a Sabbath and I let God use his word. I let him use prayer, and I let him use the world around me to recharge and resync me up. So I would say the Sabbath 100%. And because especially if I know the person who wrote this and they're in ministry. And so there's no way you were never not a pastor. You were never not a missionary. Like you were never not that. You don't take a hat off. And so due to that and due to ministry and the demands of it, the Sabbath is just that is our true north. I can do anything 6 days a week if I have the Sabbath with some crab, some a good TV show, and and Jesus just loving me to death, which he does. Okay, what else? Let's see. What have I learned about myself through motherhood? This is a fun one. First of all, I learned that I like being a mom. I didn't even know I would like it. And now it's like the only thing I want to do. Oh my gosh. Literally, like I could just, like, I was telling Dustin a while ago, I think I may have said this on another podcast, but I was telling him, I'm like, I may just bring the kids home and homeschool them and like not do ministry or anything anymore. Just be with the kids. And he's like, well, you'd have to teach them right. And I was like, well, yeah, but like you can learn a lot at the zoo. They'll know everything about amphibians. But I think the biggest thing it's taught me is that I love it and that I'm good at it. No, I think my kids are always going to like me, and I think I'm always going to like them. And, we speak that over ourselves too. And as a family, like family first, like our family is more important than anything. One of the prayers we pray at night is, and I pray over them and they repeat it. I say, and God help them. And they go, always love their families. So, I didn't realize, I never really had a passion for like legacy or family or motherhood or raising the next generation or the next generation at all. Like all those kind of things you hear, I never had a passion for it And now it's my biggest passion. So I think I've learned a lot about that. So yeah, what have I learned about myself? I learned that I loved it and that I would be good at it. And just like, again, let's sidebar this for a minute. Like if you're a parent, like you are good at it. I know sometimes we are tired, and I know sometimes that we do things that we need to apologize for. Side note, again, apologize to your children. I do it all the time. Let them see us apologize. Let them see us fail and try again. That's good. That's healthy. But you're equipped. You're anointed for it. Anointing is God's super on our natural, okay? So if whatever kids God gave you, like they are yours for a reason, and you have everything in you to raise them to be exactly who they're supposed to be. If I had to switch jobs with anyone on the church staff, who would it be? I'll tell you who it wouldn't be. Pastor Ben. You have no one, including myself, has any idea what Pastor Ben does. Like, talk about wearing many hats. Like, you couldn't pay me you couldn't pay me $1 million to do Pastor Ben's job. And I also want to want Ryan's job. My brother-in-law, he is our media director, and woo, oh boy. You know, we could just go into church on Sundays and we just like watch a video and are like, that was cute. You have no idea what goes behind all of the things, the scheduling, the sound, the videos, making sure it plays at the right time, training up people under him to do all of the things. And then Dustin screaming from the platform, I need more sound in my monitor. So those are two jobs. This is church. The hours, the effort, the emotional, the physical, all of it, toll, that they are champions. Whose job would I want? This is also super strenuous, super taxing, but I actually told them the other day, I was like, can I just be your assistant? Casey and Robin, our Dream Center directors, they do everything involving our Dream Center in Dallas. You know, hey, if I were to retire tomorrow, I would go volunteer full-time Dream Center, 100% full-time. Let's see, my favorite childhood memory. We're getting through these, y'all. Favorite childhood memory is 100% being outside. Being outside with my siblings. I have the best siblings. I mean, the best. There's one brother. I have one brother, 4 sisters. They're the absolute joy of my life. And playing with them outside in the Pacific Northwest was just the best. There was we didn't even have a TV. Like we didn't even have a physical TV until I was like maybe 12 or 13. And even then we weren't connected to cable. And so everything we did, we would make mud pie. We lived on land. We had sheep. We had bunnies. We had just like a creek that flowed down the back acre of our property. We would slide down the creek when it would get mossy, and we'd roller skate up in the cul-de-sac. I mean, just outside life was so healthy and just the most beautiful part about my childhood, I think. Other than obviously my parents were absolutely incredible, but I'm just thinking like beyond the stereotypical, my parents are amazing answer. And they were. Okay, here's a fun one. My biggest ministry pet peeve. I think I can say this one pretty definitely. Ministry is super hard, you know, and life is hard. Everyone's job is hard. Nobody has it better than the next person. So, and I realize that, but there are specific things about ministry that can be difficult sometimes. People, you know, criticizing you and judging you, which I've kind of gotten okay with. I'm pretty okay with that now. I'm okay with people leaving. I'm okay with people coming. I'm okay when people like me, and I'm okay when they hate me the next week. I know who I am, and I know the people with me now. And I've got some serious saints with me, y'all. And so I'm really maybe 10 years ago, I would have said like mean people or judgmental people, but I'm okay with that now, you know, and we're in the human business. If you're in ministry, you don't get to like be mad when people are mean to you. Like, you don't get to be mad when people judge you. You don't get to be mad. No, we're in the human business. If we're the leaders, and I think I talked about that on my last Q&A too, but like I don't get to be mad because somebody misunderstood something I said. Like, they're humans. And whether they hate me or not, at some point they look to me like a leader at some point. And so I need to behave like one. And that means kindness and loving. And I don't fall asleep anymore thinking about what somebody said or what somebody blogged or what somebody posted or who criticized my bag at church. I had one Sunday years ago where a lady was like, oh no, it's shoes. It was like, she was like, oh, I know how much shoes I know how much those shoes cost. They were fakes. They were knockoff. Literally, I'm from Thailand, y'all. she, she was like criticizing me. And so I was like, well, good thing they're fake. But that really like used to like bother me, And now it will more make me giggle and just be like, oh, they're growing, they're learning. They don't want their pastor wearing $2,000 shoes. I don't want to wear $2,000 shoes over my dead body. I would destroy them in one day. But just having grace for people, I think. So I'm trying to really think like currently. So all of those things would have been my pet peeves before: being criticized, being judged, being talked about, being called a cult leader because I'm a devout Christian, being, my husband being criticized because, he didn't use the atonement theory in the right way in a specific message. Just all that garbage. Like I don't even care about, I don't even blink at it anymore. Don't even blink at it. But I think the pet peeve that has always been there and that is currently there and will probably always be there is that I really don't like it when people fake it with me. And I feel like a lot of the times I get approached with people's best foot forward. And a lot of the times it can be, this is specifically with church, okay? Like ministry pet peeve. And I'm just, you guys know me by now. Like I'm a backstage girl. Like if you can't hang backstage, like this relationship is not going to be authentic. And nobody has time for fake relationships. Like nobody has time for them. But sometimes it can just be like, oh yes, and at this church I taught this class and I did this thing and I gave that much and I'm this and I'm a financial this and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like please tell me about your marriage. Like please real talk me about you and your kids. Real talk me about your faith walk. What doubts do you have? What questions are you up against? How are you suffering right now? And that's what I love. And so for me, I just want real. I want real. There was a guy sitting next to me years ago in church, and Dustin was preaching, and it was just like cigarette, pot, I don't know what it was. All the scents were coming up. And Dustin says something, he goes, I won't say it because of all the people who would be mad at me for saying it. But he said the real word. He goes, "If that's good, Pastor D." And I was like, and this is my person right here. Like this is the guy. These are the people. So raw, have nothing to hide, not hiding behind like I'm an apostle of this place, or I planted this place, or I taught here, or I led this, or I have, like I don't want pedigree. Everybody I can throw up pedigree at you and it means nothing if you don't see my heart. Like we can all say what we've done. I like to see behind the stage. And so but not only is that my biggest pet peeve, but then it's also my favorite thing about people is when they're just so real with me and honest. And I just love knowing who people really are. I have more respect for the guy who swore in church, amening Dustin, than I have for the person who's like, my name's Apostle Jamie and I prophesy. I'm sorry. Like I've been in this way too long. I know what both of those people are going to bring to the table, and I'll take the pot smoking swearer amener over the person who is hiding behind spirituality and religion. Now, let me preface, there's nothing wrong with being an apostle or prophesying or leading small groups or being a prayer warrior. Or I'm just saying, like, I don't like to be approached with pedigree. I like the real person. When a woman tells me like her marriage stuff, like authentically, like I am so honored, like, and I keep those things sacred and secret. And I really love, give me a chance to be loyal to you. I'll say that. Give me a chance to be loyal. Give me a chance to keep something sacred for you. Eugene Peterson says in his book, The Pastor, he says that people are not problems to be solved. They're mysteries to be explored. And that's what I go into pastoring, leadership, friendship, wifing, every part of my life. I don't go in, I'm going to fix somebody. That's not my job. My job is also not to convince somebody. My job is to treat them as the sacred, image-bearing people of God that they are and explore the mysteries in them. And so when somebody is genuinely authentic with all of the things that they have been through or are currently going through, there's nothing there's nothing I am more honored by than that. Okay, somebody wants to know my favorite thing about PD. That's Dustin. PD, we call him PD around here. PD, Jude, and Jen. Oh, okay. My favorite thing about Dustin, boy, it has evolved. Back when I married him, I would have said my favorite thing about him was like his passion and his like intensity. 15 years later, now I think one of my favorite things about Dustin is his willingness to always grow and change. And Dustin has never been set in stone. And he's a black and white person for sure, but he is always willing to hear somebody and take it in. He doesn't go into any conversation ready to prove his point, if that makes sense. He really takes people in. He takes people's experiences in, mine included. He takes people's thoughts in, mine included, even if they don't always align with his. And he really like thinks them through. And so I love about him that he's not set in stone. He's intense and he's opinionated, but he's very open. He's a very open, tolerant person. And I think that would surprise some people about him because he comes across, I think sometimes like so intense that you don't realize that Dustin is way nicer than me. He is the kindest. He will have the most grace. He doesn't remember anything bad about anybody. He is so kind. And I'm the one that's had to work on being kind and having a good heart sometimes and being gracious. But I think I come across more nice. But he's the one you actually want if you're coming at us. So I would say that I love that about him. I love that. And I love to like with our therapist, I feel like we have grown a really amazing way to laugh at ourselves and our idiosyncrasies. And so I love that he can give me a really bad time and I can give him a really bad time and we can just laugh now. And so I love his sense of humor and his openness and his ability to just take the world in and let it help form and speak to him. Obviously there's the normal cliches, loves God, yada, 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 but I like to get a little bit underneath all those. Not that there's anything yada, yada, yada about loving God. If you watch Seinfeld, you'll understand that reference. Okay, what do I love about Jude? He is very sweet. Very, very sweet. He's very kind. All the kids at school like him. He will always make a point to, I remember years ago that they were all voting for a team or maybe picking teams or something. And there was one kid that wasn't getting picked. And he picked them first. And then he told me later, and I was like, well, why did you pick them? And he goes, well, he always gets picked last. And so that's his heart. Like that is his heart. Like he is so sweet, like to the core. My favorite thing about Genesis, my second born, is it's definitely a sense of humor. This kid is hysterical. He legit makes me laugh. Like he's sweet too, but oh my gosh, his sense of humor is so evolved. Like I think he could be like a stand-up comedian. Like he is so funny. And he just brings so much life to our house. Like he just walks in the room and everything lights up. Like he lights everything up in our house. Oh, I love them so much. All right. Oh, here's a fun one. Biggest mistakes in ministry. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. Some of them I still grieve, to be honest, because you can't be you can be in ministry and let your heart get hard and think you're always right and always better than everybody else and always the one with the right call. Or you can be in ministry and kind of like I was talking about with Dustin, just be moldable and be willing to learn and be willing to realize like I shouldn't have done that and I shouldn't have said that. Okay, I would say this. I think there are times in ministry where I have been passive aggressive and I should have been more direct. I regret that. There was one time where I was just full on harsh with somebody and I tell this story a lot actually, but this is probably one of my biggest fouls. This was in youth ministry and I had this kid in my life and I loved this kid. I still do love this kid. Like he's awesome. He's just a great kid. And he, as kids do, was going through his own journeys in life and he started to, I don't remember what exactly he criticized me over. I don't remember if it was women preaching or if it was that I used, TV shows in my illustrations. I don't remember what it was, but there was something that he criticized me over, which he has a right to do. Sidebar, if you're in ministry, people have the right to think things about you. It's okay. It doesn't diminish who you are or your value or your voice, but people are going to think and assume things. So don't go into ministry if you aren't ready for that. Okay, back to this story. So this kid criticized me, and so I just lit into him online. And I sent him a message, and because I was insecure, and so I couldn't handle being criticized. And so because of my insecurity, I lashed out at some 15-year-old kid. It was so inappropriate. And I used the Bible. I used verses to, maybe I'll have him in someday to tell the story. But I used Bible verses to prove my point. And I remember taking a verse from Romans completely out of context and accusing him of not having God in him because of he doesn't have the fruits of whatever. I mean, it was awful. Dustin was like, Jamie, what in the world? You can't do this. And so it was such an interesting lesson, a good lesson for me though, because I was ministering out of my own insecurity. And so I couldn't handle somebody criticizing me. This is a kid, couldn't handle it. And so I ended up grabbing this guy a couple weeks later when he was at church. And I was like, I am so sorry. That was wrong of me. Will you please forgive me? And he totally forgave me. He was so sweet. We ended up having a wonderful relationship after that. Thank God. I just thank God for his grace to forgive me, because that was not cool. That was a big foul. And I'm still grateful for that kid forgiving me. And he's not a kid anymore. Now he's an awesome guy. But yeah, so that was probably my biggest mistake, and also the one I learned the most lessons from. But then after I went really hardcore and harsh, then I got passive aggressive, and I would be, snarky sometimes. And I feel like that's just as bad, because nobody should have to question whether their leader's mad at them or not, or is thinking something about them or not, or talking about them or not. I don't want to be that. I know those people that you have to wonder what they're saying or what they're really thinking, or are they being passive aggressive, or are they really mad at me or whatever. I don't want to be that person. And so now I'm not harsh or passive aggressive. I just live my life. I love Jesus as best as I can. I teach his Bible as best as I can. And I love people as mysteries to be explored, not as people to fix. And I have the local church to thank for that school. That's that school. Okay, the greatest joys in ministry was the second part of that question. And oh my goodness, I could cry thinking about this one, because we always internalize the negatives, right? We always internalize the one party we weren't invited to, the one person who didn't talk to us, the one critique, the one Instagram story that hurt my feelings, the one, all these things. We focus on that. And then there are 1,000. There are 1,000 wins, and there are 1,000 joys. And I am too old to focus on all the criticisms anymore and all of the negatives. I don't, like I said before, I don't even think about it anymore. I focus on the wins and the joys. And so I would honestly say in ministry, besides people just number one, staying with Jesus. I always tell our college students this. I'm like, I don't care if you leave this church. I don't care if you graduate unmarried and pregnant and an addict. I don't care if you have to go through specific, certain life things that are going to be hard. I don't care if you get in trouble with the law later. I don't care if you become reformed. I don't care if you go Catholic. I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you hate me in 20 years. I don't care what, just stay with Jesus. That's it. That is the greatest win I can ever have. It's not people being able to tell me that I taught them that God is big and God is good, or that I taught them the canonization of scripture, or that I preached a really nice women's conference message. That's all fine. Flowers in the cap, whatever. But if you are still living for Jesus in 25 years, I'll die happy. No matter what you have to go through just stay with Jesus. No matter what comes your way, just stay with Jesus. If it's a different church, it's a different life choices. If it's different scenarios, if it's different, whatever is coming anyone's way, if you stay with Jesus. And I always tell our college students this, like, find me a person on their deathbed who has followed God, for 50 years, and ask them if they regret it. You will not find one. You will not find one. And so for me, that's the greatest joy. The other greatest joy, honestly, is seeing my girls, like I like the staff girls, like these are my girls, like there's girls who have come through the college program, like seeing them like live their callings out, seeing them preach, seeing them teach, seeing them walk with confidence where they didn't have any before, seeing them make great choices about who to marry, seeing them be picky about their spouses, like who they're going to date, like seeing my girls walk in their callings with so much confidence is like the greatest paycheck I could ever get. And then watching them get married, oh my gosh, like we just had one of our girls, Val Collins, got engaged 2 weeks ago. Val, my girl, Val Garza, I mean, I will not be able to hold myself together when I watch her walk down the aisle on July 7th, because I know her story. Like I've known her for, I don't know what, 8 years, 7 or 8 years. And I know how she came in, and I know the woman walking down the aisle. And there is like, oh my gosh, like there is nothing better. I'm getting emotional. I always get emotional when I talk about Val Garza. Okay. But yes, those are the greatest joys. And then seeing them have kids, like Caitlin having Jubilee, Madison and Marshall just had Sailor. I mean, these kids are just coming into the world, and it is just the most amazing thing to watch. Like, oh my gosh, like I knew them when they were so young and they felt so broken. They weren't, but they felt so broken. And now, like, look at these killer women. Makes me so happy. Okay, best parenting advice for toddler stage and welcome home baby number 2. I know who wrote this question, and so I'm wondering if this is her way of announcing this to me. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to text her when we get out of here. Oh my, most likely she's just planning for the future because we just talked last week. But if this was her way of telling me she has baby number 2 coming, that's really fun. Advice for toddler stage. I love toddler stage. There's nothing, oh my gosh, 3 and 4, dream years. I could have kept them. I don't like people who are like, get ready for the terrible 2s, right? Like they are not terrible 2s. They are absolutely delightful 2s. And like toddlers are just so fun. My best parenting advice though at toddler stage, let's see, I would say read books. I want to get this summer. I actually am bringing books back into our entire home because we've gotten a little off track this year and with all the homework and everything. But I think books are an amazing way, because if toddlers can understand, I always tell my kids this, I go, you can do anything in the world that anybody else is doing. And do you know why? And they go, because we can read. I'm like, yes, you can be anything you want. They may not be able to make the NBA or the NFL. They're landed, got it. But I always tell them, you can do anything. You can do anything you want because, and they'll say it, we can read. And so I think reading out of the womb is the best gift you can ever give your children. My mom read out loud to us every single year until our teens probably. And again, open up their world. And that's the other thing I would say is travel with them, show them the beach. So, and you don't have to like go to Thailand. My kids they've both been in Thailand in my stomach. I was pregnant with both of them when I went the last times, but they haven't been to Thailand. It's not like we're doing these elaborate vacations, but just like let them see the world, let them see snow, let them climb a tree, let them read, like just blow their little world up. Like I love it so much. And you see their little light bulb eyes come on. And oh my goodness, when they learn how to like, my kids used to hate bugs. And I don't like that because I'm from the Northwest. So it's like we were around bugs all the time. I was an outdoor kid. I was a tomboy. And so my mom came into town and my mom did a grandma camp with them about bugs. She does 1 week of grandma camp with them every year. And it's just her and them. And she does a whole theme for the camp. And this one I think was bugs. And so they learned to love bugs and they learned to identify bugs. And Jew was carrying a worm after school the other day. I was like, oh, mission accomplished, grandma. Good job. But just seeing them like, oh my goodness. Like, but I think like as parents, we've got to like, let them have those opportunities where the light bulb comes on. We got to show them and like they're never too young to start reading. They're never too young to be playing outside. They're never too young to be learning about bugs. And they're never too young to be learning about Jesus, obviously. And I mean, my kids, they know about Jesus. They know about worms. They know about June bugs. And they know, I was going to say Peter Pan, but they don't know about Peter Pan yet because I wanted to start that book with them this summer. There's all this kissy talk in it. And I don't do kissy talk yet with them. No, every parent's different, no judgment. We do not do crushes. We do not do kissy talk. We do not do who's cute. Your girlfriends are your awesome friends. And that's what they are. And they're not quote, girlfriends. They're awesome friends that are girls. And I always tell my boys, I'm like, girls are awesome. They're like, yeah, girls are awesome. And so they have friends over. We had a friend that's a girl over last week. She's my favorite. I love her. They're so fun. They play. They all just, it's so pure and innocent. And so I just am very careful about like when their bodies do what their bodies are going to do, like then we will have these talks. Or when their brains start to think that way, we will have these talks. But I'm not about to push it on them. And so I was going to do Peter Pan with them, but there's just too much like, is this a kiss? Is this a kiss? And I'm like, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. Okay, biblical expectations of a godly marriage. This probably needs its own episode as well. But I would say biblical expectations of a godly marriage are two people who love selflessly and love without conditions. Someone who is committed 100% of the time. It's not, well, they did this. My husband came home late last night, so I'm going to make him pay by not having sex with him tonight. Nope. No, not cool. This marriages shouldn't be this give and take thing, or I won't say it give and take because we give and take in funny, cute ways, but like it shouldn't be this you owe me because you did this. And it's not keeping score. It's not keeping score. It's not keeping account. Really selfless love. And I'm not talking about anyone, and I always say this, anyone in an abusive, emotionally, or physically abusive relationship. I'm talking to people who love each other, who love God, who are trying their best, but it's just tough to figure out a godly marriage, okay? And so I believe that two people in a godly marriage love and respect each other, selflessly love and respect each other, and they work to show both of those things every day. And Dustin came home the other night, and he was saying an opinion. And I think he thought I was going to, because we oftentimes play devil's advocate with each other, which I think probably most couples do. And so I think he thought I was going to have an opposite opinion than him. And I was like, yeah, babe, like you're exactly right. Like that's exactly right. Like I feel for you on that topic. And the next day he goes, you were really nice last night. And I think I realized like, I really respect him and I need to find ways to show him that I respect him. And respecting him is not always showing him the other side of everything, right? And him respecting me is not always trying to fix me or tell me how to, drive my car. Like respect and love, when they go together and they're intentionally tried to be shown or manifested every day, I think that is the most beautiful picture of a godly marriage. And all the leadership stuff, and that we have guys all the time that are like slugging their beers all over the house, screaming, I'm the leader of this house. Yeah, no, you're not, bro. If you got to scream it, you're not. And so I think a lot of the times when we talk about godly marriages, like it can become about those like minute things. I think honestly, godly marriage is love and respect for each other that is shown, that manifests itself. And I was walking through a bathroom the other day and Dustin's phone was out and it blinked. And so I normally don't check his phone because I normally don't like to know a lot of the things that happen during the day for him because it's stressful. He has a very stressful life. But it blinked. And so it caught my eye and I looked and it said, it was a what do you call it? A reminder. And it said, affirm Jamie. It was the reminder. And so I teased him and so I went and found him. I was like, you're late, to your affirmation. And but this is the beautiful thing about that is like he has a really busy, packed schedule, crazy life. I mean, the things that hats that guy wears, the weight on his shoulders, there are no words for. I love him for it and I respect him for it. But he knows that I also need to feel loved and respected. And I'm a words of affirmation person. And so he actually puts it in his schedule to affirm me. And so some wives would be like, well, they shouldn't have to. Yeah, they should, y'all. Stop with that. We ask for things, and then when we get them, we're like, well, it didn't come like I wanted. They're trying. Guys, if she's trying in the bedroom, like if you've expressed some things and she's trying and it just didn't come exactly as naturally and as notebooky as you would like it to, if both spouses can just truly be loving, respecting, and trying, both of them every day, I think that's the biblical expectation of godly marriage and love with no conditions. Dustin has been through some really rough things, and I walked him through them. And I've been through some really rough things, and he's walked me through them. We never gave up, and we never lost love or respect. Like once in a while, 100%. Was it Billy Graham's wife? Somebody asked her if she ever considered divorce, and she goes, never, not in a million years, but murder a couple times. I was like, yep, and there it is. Have Dustin and I not liked each other once in a while? Well, yeah, this is Backstage. Obviously, we're two separate humans with completely different family history and completely different worldviews. Of course, we're going to have some iron sharpen iron. We've never lost respect and we've never lost love. And so I think those are just the two things that really set up a beautiful, godly marriage. Here's another fun one I missed. I didn't see this one. Okay. What do you and Dustin like to do for fun? Oh my goodness. We really lucked out in this department. We think completely different. We have fun almost identically. So that's super fun, except for he likes a little bit more physical activity than I do, but that's fine. No worries. I probably like a little more TV than he does. But overall, we have fun doing the same things. We love being a family. We love being with our kids. I was going to teach in Hawaii a few months ago at YWAM Kona at Ships. And the kids were going to come with us and do grandma time because my mom and dad lived there. Well, Dustin and I taught. Well, Dustin had to preach on Sunday, so he was coming later. And so he texted me and he was like, so are you taking the boys or am I? And I was like, oh, I am. And he goes, well, I want them. And I was like, but I want them. And he's like, but I would love for them to come with me. We were literally arguing over who got to do an 11-hour, a 9-hour flight to Hawaii with our two children. So if that says anything, we love being a family. We love our kids. We love being together. We love to laugh. I'll cook. They'll all play soccer outside. We just love the simple little family moments. And what else does Dustin and I do for fun? We love to watch TV together. He gets super annoyed because I call everything. I'm TV brilliant. I'm the most brilliant TV watcher of all time, I think. And he's always like 10 steps behind. I'm like, babe, catch up. He's evil. He's the bad guy. And we love to be with our sisters. Our sisters live with us. The aunties live with us. They opened the podcast this season. And we love to be with them. So when they're home, we just hear all about their boyfriends and all the school stuff. And one of them's a teacher. One of them's a nurse. So we get to hear about the school. We get to hear about the hospital. It's just so much fun. So I think actually listening to myself talk sums it up is that we just like family. We do family for fun. Ohana. That's what we're about. Okay, easiest way to understand the Bible. I think this will be our last one. I think, again, this is a podcast all in an episode all of its own, or should be. And I'll probably do one at some point about just like my fundamental teachings on how to start to understand the Bible. But I think the main thought that you have to go in when you're reading your Bible, because there are so many different genres in there. I mean, there's poetry books, and then there's historical books, and then there's like just stories and narratives. And so there's all kinds of different things happening in the Bible. And so I think when you approach it, the easiest way to understand it, this will be the most important thing I ever say to anybody about understanding the Bible, is that we have to understand that the Bible was written for us, but not to us. And so if I read Paul's command in, I think it's 2 Timothy, or maybe it's Corinthians. This sounds like it would be in a Corinth letter. If I read his command for women to not speak in church and take that, that one verse where Paul says, I don't allow a woman to teach. I think it says teach or speak. And I just take that, then now I'm being sinful for doing my job, for like, like if I take that verse, then I'm in the wrong as a female who pastors and teaches and preaches. And so instead of just taking random verses, sometimes it's called or proof texting different things, I think we have to approach these things like I would approach that verse that Paul says, which also could be its own podcast, why Paul said that. But I can't approach that like God is writing that to me. I have to approach that as, who was Paul talking to? First of all, who was Paul? Second of all, who was Paul writing this instruction to? Third of all, what's the historical context around the church at Corinth? What was happening there specifically in the female population? I hope it was Corinth. It was probably somewhere else, but it's so important to understand that these verses aren't just like written to us to construct these really intense theologies around, but they were written in a specific time of history to specific people in history. And so I think that really helps when understanding the Bible is like when I read Psalms and David is weeping, so emo, the most adorable, cute emo boy ever, David. Oh my gosh, like the hottest mess, but so lovable. Know any of those? Know any of those people? That's David. And when I read him weeping and feeling so betrayed, and like everybody had done him wrong, and he's really upset, and he says in the Psalms, may my enemies' children be orphaned. Like, I don't really think that's a biblical prayer. I don't think we should be praying for death over people. Like, I don't think that's actually like a verse that we take out and now like anybody who talks bad about me, I'm praying for their children to be orphaned. No, this is a specific situation. David was emoting through poetry what his human experience was in that moment. Follow through the psalm, and of course he will land at, God, you are good and faithful, and you will avenge my enemies. Like, right? But so we just have to really, I'm a big proponent of knowing the historical context of the book and the literary context of the book, which the literary context is what verses are coming before and after it. So why did Paul say in that one verse for women to keep silent? But then why does he say like a chapter before that when women pray and prophesy, they should yada, yada, yada? And so like what's happening here? And that's the joy of Bible study. That's the joy of understanding the Bible is that and here's the thing too, the Bible's not out to get us, y'all. I know it can feel daunting and it can feel heavy, but honestly, the Bible, I think Cynthia James said it in my biblical literacy podcast earlier this season, but she said, you should never come to the word and not be met with love. And so if you're in the Bible and you're struggling with feeling like it's coming for you, I'm not saying we can't be convicted. I'm convicted every time I open my Bible. But conviction is different than like a beat down. The Bible's not there to beat down. The Bible is there to infuse you, not only with God's history with humankind, which is so beautiful and powerful. It's a story. It's a narrative. It is so amazing what God has done with his people. And now we are those people living out the same exact story. I always say it to when I do Bible study classes, I'm like, hey, listen, I am Samson at some point in my life. I am Paul at some point in my life. I am Barnabas bailing on the mission trip at some point in my life, right? I am David acting a fool at some point in my life. These were real people. And so I think understanding it and reading it as I am this person, I am Saul. Saul is such a fascinating character in the Bible. He lost his kingdom to David, and David was way worse of a person. It's an interesting Bible study to do, actually. Why did Saul lose it? Saul did technically way less damage than David did, but yet he lost it. And so these are the interesting things. So instead of like Saul being the bad guy and David being the good guy, let's make them all humans and let's figure out why and what happened along the way and how did God save and how did God rescue and how did God intervene and how ultimately And then ultimately we'll see how God does it for us. It's so beautiful. Okay, last one. We'll end on a fun note. 3 things in life that I would rate 10 out of 10. Okay, got it. Number 1, my car. Volvo for life. Shout out to Max Kaplan for hooking me up. I love my car. I will always drive Volvo. I'm obsessed. Number 2, Hawaii. Hawaii never disappoints. It's always a 10. It's always off the charts. We've been there sick. We've been there tired. We've been there burnt out. We've been there happy. We've been in Hawaii on so many different occasions, and it always comes through. There's no place like Hawaii. And the third 10 out of 10 thing would be, this one's hard. This one's getting hard. I would say either North Italia's truffle bread or Eugene Peterson's Long Obedience in the same direction. Check them both out. Okay, y'all, this has been fun. I love you guys. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for closing out the season with me. And we'll see you back next season with lots more good stuff. And I'm grateful.